I'm going to tell you that right now. You're probably listening to me and you're thinking you're full of shit, right? But you are a victim. You feel that you are a victim and you are a blamer. You're blaming everybody else. But it gets to a point that you need to wake up and you need to start taking responsibility for who you are.
Hello and welcome to the 6-Star Leaders podcast. I am your host, Aveline Clark, and you're about to listen to another incredible conversation with an amazing human, all about how they are making a difference in the world using passion, purpose, and their alignment of their genius. It's going to be good. They always are. Enjoy. My next guest is Shannan Mondor. It's just lovely when I come across someone, most of my guests actually, who are completely in alignment with themselves, their purpose, their mission, and Shannan is no exception. She's a best-selling author, she's a podcast host, public speaker, and a coach. She's overcome an incredibly dark past. Dark as in challenging, full of addiction, generational addiction, and a whole lot of stuff, yet she's pulled through. She's happily married with 4 children, and what she's doing today is a direct result of the journey that she's been on. In this conversation, she shares all of it with me and how she came into alignment with her true purpose and what it took for her to overcome the challenges and how she's now helping other people. She speaks very directly, very passionately and honestly, and she loves what she's doing. She's an absolute joy. I know you're going to enjoy this. This is Shannan Mondor. Hello and welcome. It is another wonderful episode of 6-Star Podcast. I'm here with my guest today, Shannan Mondor. Welcome, Shannan. It is so lovely to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure. And I'm so excited for this.
Me too. Now, we have met a couple of times before, and I've just been so aligned with everything that you've done. I've learned about your story, the personal story. I know about a bit about you now, and I'm just really grateful. I have no idea what's going to come out in this conversation, but I'm so looking forward to it. I like to get started by asking our guests a few questions so that our audience gets to know you. And the first question is really hard, and that is, can you tell us where you are in the world?
Oh, gosh. Sometimes I got to question that myself, too. But no, I live in Alberta, Canada. It's one of the Western provinces, and I love it here. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Wonderful. Thank you. And okay, who do you serve in the world, and how do you serve them?
I serve anybody out there that really doesn't know what direction in life that they want to go. How many of us wake up in the morning and we just think to ourselves, like, what am I doing? Where am I going? And you have that confusion. Well, let me tell you, I'm the one that's going to help you, guide you to find who you are by helping you to dive deep into your inner being of who you really are and who you're meant to be. And as we take this journey together, it's going to be amazing. And that's what I do.
Oh, I love it. And I look forward to unpacking that a bit later on and getting more into the detail around that. Tell me, before we get into your story, Shannan, I'd like to know, what is it that you like to do when you're not busy serving people?
Well, I have 4 beautiful children. My 2 older children have left the nest. So I've got 2 at home. I have my son, which is 14, and then my daughter, which is 15. So now that they're back in school, we're going to be busy with football and volleyball. I also love to go for my walks. I go to the gym. I do spin class. And I got to say, I'm one of those sick people. I do like to clean my house as well. So yeah, I'm one of those people. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us know. Yes, very important.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
No, I used to like to cook, but I it's almost like I don't have time for that anymore. And it just gets harder to cook with the less children in the house now. So I've learned the slow cooker way and that for sure. So yeah.
You've learnt some efficiency cuts there. Wonderful.
Absolutely. It's called skip dishes or takeout or whatever.
Well, Shannan, I'm really fascinated to learn more about you and for you to share that with our audience. What you were saying before about the work that you do is obviously really important and specialized, and you haven't just landed on that one day. You didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to do this. So there's obviously a journey behind that. There's a story, and we've all got stories, and I like to extract our stories out to share with our listeners who you are and why you do what you do. So could you share with us the story? What has brought you to where you are today?
Sure, absolutely. So my journey actually begins even before I was born. Addiction is a genetic disease within our family. So I myself, too, was addicted to alcohol for many, many, many years. My father, as far as I know, I don't know the generations prior to that, but my father was an alcoholic, extremely abusive, and what comes with that, mental illness as well, too. So he abused everybody within my family, especially my mom and my oldest brother. When I was about 2.5 years old, my father had committed suicide. And so what was left within our family, the addiction and the abuse had already started to take into play, for the fact that my oldest brother carried on that, followed in his footsteps is exactly what happened. So my oldest brother was there to help my mother raise the ones that were left at home, which was me and my 3 other sisters. Now, I am the youngest of 8, and we do have a half brother. So when my brother would come over, me and my sisters, we all lived in fear, because he had already had the addiction and he had been abused his whole entire life as well. So he turned into my father. He was exactly like my father. All my adolescent years, I lived in fear. I had anxiety. That was just a normal to me. We would always walk by him and we'd always be in protection mode. We'd be flinching because we knew that we would always get something physical towards us, whether it was a slap upside the head or push to the floor or, push into the wall or whatever it was. And then getting into my teenage years, it became more mental abuse because it was drilled in us from such an early age that, I was dumb, I was stupid, I was never going to amount to anything, you're good for nothing, like all of these horrible things. And I understand now that those are the things that my father had said to my brother. And so those were his belief systems. So that's what he screamed out to the world and how he wanted everybody else to feel. But of course, being told that for all those years, you believe those things about yourself. And then as we got into our teenage years, then the words got worse. Like we were bitches, we were sluts, we were whatever, right? So my grade 12 year came and I basically had chronic depression. I didn't know that I had it back then. And back in 1987, like I'm 54 years old. And back in 1987, like nobody talked about that type of stuff or even really knew or, it's not widely talked about like it is now. And I can remember that I was just so tired all the time. Like that. And of course, that's one of the major symptoms, right? Back then, I had no dreams. I had no aspirations. I did not know where I was going in life. I felt like a frickin' complete loser. Of course, me being tired all the time, it was hard for me to even go to school. So I did not graduate. So what ended up happening there? Then, of course, all these things that my brother had said to me for years had come true. And I had such shame and guilt about myself. And looking back then too, I was extremely suicidal. I can remember one specific time, I just wanted to get out of the house. I just wanted to be left alone. I just wanted to go to sleep. I wanted to sleep more. And so I went into my other brother's car in the garage and I'm sitting in the front seat and I'm thinking to myself, if I turned on this car, would anybody even know that I was gone? Right? It was things like that I would think about all the time. Anyways, obviously I didn't do it, right? And then once I got into my 20s and 30s, I basically ran from who I was, especially my last name. I despised my last name so bad for the fact of the reputation. Everybody knew who my father was back in the day. And so I didn't want to be affiliated with that at all. And my brothers, they had made the reputation of being fighters because they had to prove to everybody who they were. So they were known as, the fighters, stay away from they're tough guys and that, right? And then my one sister got pregnant when she was 14. And so people looked at me from such an early age, and I was judged, and I know I was judged, and I was very angry and full of resent towards my family because I felt that I was paying the cost of what they did. And I really felt that I was never protected. My older brother would do this stuff to us and whatever, right? And my mom would just, she wouldn't say anything to him. But that to her was normal. And I get that now because that's what my father did to her. And then so another thing that my brother had done too is because he was so much like my father, he actually also emotionally abused my mom, right? He talked to her down, and he still does to this day. And it's very, very sad. It's very sad. So when I got into my 20s and 30s, of course, I couldn't wait to get the hell away from my family. I'm not saying that I don't love my family because I do. But you know what? I couldn't be around him anymore. I was running. So in my 20s and 30s, I was a people pleaser. I was a chameleon. I did whatever anybody wanted me to do. So I would be liked. I conformed to what people wanted me to be because I didn't want to feel the loneliness. I was trying to hide from the shame, and I devalued myself so much. So what I did, I'm such a low vibrational being as is. When you're a low vibration, you attract low vibration people. And that's what I did. I attracted people that manipulated me and were narcissists. And that's what I attracted within my relationship. And my men always came first. Like I didn't have a lot of men. In my 20s and 30s, I had a total of 3 relationships, and they were anywhere from 3 years to 7 years until I married my husband. But those men, they manipulated me. They were narcissists. I would put them first over anything else. And I look back at myself now then, and I'm just sick to my stomach. I'm just like, oh my God, right? But that's who I was back then. And, then I got married. I'm with my husband, and we're totally opposites attract. Totally opposites attract. So, there's me with my family, drug addiction, mental illness, abuse, struggle financially. We're not educated. We've got this reputation. Everybody knows who we are, but not in a good way, and that's how I viewed it. And then there's my husband's side of the family. They're, well respected within the community. Everybody knows who they are. Everybody loves them. They're all financially secure, very involved with the Catholic Church, so total opposites attract. Very well liked within the community. Image is a huge thing to them as well, right? So, as our relationship becomes more involved and whatever, right? I'm conforming to what I'm supposed to be to fit into that family. And another thing too, I had put him first, always. There's my husband, then there's his family, then there's the business, then there's the children, and then there's me. And, as time goes by and the years go by, I totally lost who I was as an individual, but also who I was within that relationship. I felt that I didn't even matter in that relationship because all I could see was him, his family, and the business. Right? So, of course, what ends up happening? Shannan starts to drink. But Shannan started drinking at 14 years old because I grew up in a small town of about 700 people. That little small town might be now 1,000 people. And, back then there'd be one house party, and I'm sure it's still the same way. Everybody shows up. So the 14-year-olds are partying with the 60-year-olds. That's what we did back in the day. But then as I get older, and then in my 20s and 30s, I start to binge drink, it's weekends. But then Shannan decides, oh, you know what? I can learn how to make wine, right? My father-in-law and them, they made wine and we used to have fun doing it together. So I start making wine. Now I'm supporting my habit, right? Then when I get into my early 40s, that's when everything really starts to crash and burn with me, because at this point, I've totally lost who I am, right? And all I want is to have a normal relationship, a normal marriage with my husband. And I can see that that's never going to happen. Then what starts happening is, so my drinking is no longer like weekends. My drinking is like every day. And then what ends up happening is I start having all of these flashbacks to when, from my childhood. Well, there you go. Like the sad thing is I don't even know if they're real or not, because they're flashbacks and I can't tell anybody because I don't know if anybody's going to believe me and I don't know if they're true or not. So what do I want to do? Every waking moment, that's literally all I'm thinking about, because I'm questioning, is this real or is this not real? Is this real or is this not real? So I'm literally going insane is what I'm doing. And I'm not even telling anybody. So I'm 5'1.5", and I'm going to be proud of saying 1.5. And I'm about 120 to 122 pounds. And back then it got to the point where I was literally drinking 6 bottles of wine a day. And what I was doing is I was getting up in the morning and I was starting to drink wine, because of course I've got all access to it because I'm making it, right? So I start drinking at about 7 in the morning, get the kids to school, take them to school, come home. I drink enough, literally. And I'm telling you the truth here. I'm passing out by about 12 or 1 o'clock. Then I pass out till about 3 o'clock when the kids have got their events that they have to go to, because my girls are like in dance and ringette and everything else, right? So I'm running with them doing that. Then when I get home making supper and I'm drinking and I'm literally passing out, right? But then it gets to the point when I'm at that 6 bottles of wine a day, because I'm still having these flashbacks and all this other stuff, literally going insane, that it gets to the point where I don't even want to wake up anymore. Like I just get up, right? Drink myself pretty much to oblivion and just lay in bed, and my husband can see everything that's going on and he doesn't know what the hell to do, right? And people are thinking at this point in time, like, why isn't he doing anything? Well, the reason is because he brings it up to me and I'm lashing out at him so much because I resent him for the fact that I felt that I let him walk all over me for all of those years. So I don't know if I'm more angry at him for doing it or for me for allowing it, right? I'm just so full of anger. And he's also brought up in a family too where, image, it means a lot. And there's a lot of families that are out there, believe me, that are so worried about their image. So they want everything to look perfect. Everything is kind of swept under the rug. You don't talk about the problems. If you don't talk about them, then they're just not there. Right? They're just not there. We'll just ignore them. So a girlfriend of mine who is a psychiatric nurse gives me a heads up that she's coming through our city and she wants to come and visit and stay the night. And all I can think about is, okay, all I got to do is keep my shit together for about 24 hours. That's all I got to do. Not drink, not nothing, whatever, right? So she comes and she's in my presence for a couple hours. And of course she can see all the, red flags happening with me, and she knows me so well. And she looks at me and she goes, "You're going to kill yourself." And I'm like, "You're right. I am." And that was when I told her about everything, about my flashbacks, everything that I was going through and all of it, right? And then she's like, "Well, we got to get you into a treatment center." So I did end up going into a treatment center, one of the best in Canada. And I was there for 8 weeks, and best thing I could have ever done. I learned so much when I was there. And that's one thing I want the listeners to hear, is that don't ever feel ashamed of going to the treatment center, because that is your first step to opening up your whole world if you're willing to put the work in. And don't ever be ashamed about it either. Like, I'll tell you, people, I speak so openly about my addiction to alcohol and me going to the treatment center. And you know what? I will continue to speak openly about that, because that was my first step in the journey. And that's the thing. It's just the first step. It's just a tool that you put in your toolbox. There's so much more that comes. So I was there for 8 weeks and I came out, and now I'm in my controlled environment now, right? I'm not hanging out with people anymore that aren't drinking, and, there's healthy boundaries set. I'm starting to live a life that, I want to live a life with. But what I did is I actually converted my drinking into physical fitness addiction. I've always been very much into, being healthy and all of that, right? And making sure that I was, looked good, like top shape and whatever, right? And I always wanted to be a bodybuilder. And now, but what stopped me before was the fact that I didn't want to quit drinking. And when you go into bodybuilding, you can't drink, right? So, but now it was like, okay, I can actually do that. So that's what I did. I converted that addiction of alcohol into fitness addiction. And I'll tell you, I loved everything about it, right? I found it so easy. My workouts, my eating program, you name it. Stepped on stage for the very first time. I was 47 years old, and I loved how I looked. I loved the bathing suits. I absolutely everything. And, but then almost a year to the date, we were invited to a wedding on my husband's side of the family to New York City. And this is really the first time that I'm actually around people drinking, and I no longer had control of my environment. And first time I had been around his family and all of this, right? And I'm not doing good. Like, I am not doing good at all. Because of course, all of these triggers start happening. And that was the one thing I didn't know. I didn't know what triggers were, because I had experienced them so much all throughout my life. They were just a part of my norm. And then also anxiety. Anxiety was there with me the whole time. I was born into anxiety energy, right? So when I'm down there, I don't know what the hell to do with myself, right? Like I'm going crazy. And of course, all of these feelings of not feeling good enough. I felt like I was totally abandoned, because once my husband was with his family, it's all about his family, right? And then there's me and the kids, and I was literally losing control of who I was. And I can't control the environment anymore. So after about 3 days of me going through all of this, struggling, I ended up going to a liquor store. We were staying down at Times Square. After the wedding, we went into New York City. We stayed down at Times Square. Everybody's partying in their rooms and stuff like that, and I couldn't handle it. So I ended up going to downstairs onto the street on Times Square, and I hit the first liquor store, and I bought some wine, those little teeny bottles, a 4-pack. And what I did is I took that, I sat down on the sidewalk, and I opened up that first bottle of wine, and I drank it. And oh my God, the calmness that went through my body was just absolutely unbelievable. And I could literally feel the alcohol go through my bloodstream. And I was so calm, and I was so peaceful. And I was like, oh, thank you, God. But anybody that knows anything about addictions, the serotonin levels after about 20 minutes absolutely skyrocket. And that's what it did with me. My anxiety was at like tenfold. And I was like, oh my God. So what did I do? I ended up starting to drink for the next 6 months in private. I joke about it privately, because anybody that would have been close to me could have easily smelled the liquor on me, right? But then as the months and everything went by, I started to get more cocky. I started to conform more to my old ways that I was at, right? I started hanging out with my old drinking buddies, and they weren't my friends. They were literally just my drinking buddies, and they were an excuse for me to drink. And I didn't want to drink alone. At that time, I didn't want to drink alone. And then, my mental health is starting to decline, because I'm starting to have all this resentment come back, towards my husband and my brother and my mom. And I'm starting to literally go back to my old ways. Then I'm starting to have these thoughts of suicide and everything. Then what happens is I wake up on August 17th of 2019, and I'm just literally looking at my life, and I'm thinking, what in the hell am I doing? I'm just going back to where I was before. I'm literally turning into my brother again. Word of advice, people. Whoever you dislike the most and whoever you focus your life upon that you don't want to be, you're actually becoming. Because that's exactly what I did. I became the person I disliked the most, which was my brother. I turned into an alcoholic like him. I was being physically abusive, emotionally abusive to all these people around me that I absolutely loved. And I was thinking, Jesus Christ, what the hell am I doing? And I'm like, no, I can't do this anymore because I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to be like my dad. I'm going to freaking kill myself. So what I ended up doing is I just thought, no way. And I really, really looked at my whole entire life. I looked at my side of the family. Now, my side of the family is 4 generations of addiction to this date. And I don't know what the addictions were prior. So I don't know if my father was alcoholic or not, or prior to that, I don't know, because he died when my father was 12. And that was one of the reasons why my father ended up becoming an alcoholic, because he ended up having to raise his younger siblings at 12 years old with his deaf mother and also take care of the family farm. So can you imagine being 12 years old and having that responsibility on you back in the 40s? And that's exactly why he became an alcoholic. And so the 4 generations here is my dad, my generation, my nieces and nephews, and now it's gone into my great nephews. And I'm looking at and I can't control what's happening on that side of the family at all. Like, that to me is totally up to my siblings. They're the only ones that got control of what's happening in their generations, down and down and down. But I know with me, I've got control of what's going to happen in my generation with my children and my grandchildren and my great grandchildren. And I'm not going to have that. So that was when I really started to dig deep, and it's like, okay, what am I going to do? Who is this person that I am literally going to become? What is it that I want to become? And at that point in time, I really didn't know, but all I knew was that I needed to be a mentor for me and for my children. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to be confident. I wanted to feel love. I wanted to give love. But how did I do that? I didn't even really know, right? Because like, I'm literally starting from fresh. I have no concept of how to do this. But you know what I did have is 20 to 25 years prior, I had my mentors that I remembered. And my mentors back then were like Dr. Wayne Dyer. God, I love Dr. Wayne Dyer. Love that man. And I had Esther and Jerry and Abraham Hicks. And I don't know if any of you know who these individuals are, but they are worldwide self-development mentors. Like, they changed my life. But the funny thing was, it's not actually funny. But what it was, I always went into mindset and personal development back in my day when things were going good. Yeah, I would manifest things and, I would get into all of that type of stuff, right? But when things were going good, that was when I would do it. And then I would just kind of put it to the wayside. But I had it backwards. You need to dive deep into that stuff when things are falling apart in your life, because that's when you really, really need to dive into who you are as that individual, because whatever's happening on the inside always shows out on your outside. And I knew that. And so I'm thinking to myself, this is where I really need to kick this into gear now. So I started listening to podcasts, going onto YouTube, watching their videos. I started reading again. And then eventually what I started to do was I started to take all these different courses. And then from there, I'm doing great. I'm doing good. I don't really know where I'm going or what I'm doing, but all I know is that I'm getting my shit together and I'm doing good. I'm not drinking. I can see light ahead of me. I'm starting to get these little goals or whatever. And then what happens? COVID happens, right? Now, we're all homeschooling our kids. And what ends up happening is I'm seeing these people that I know, these mothers I know, are on Facebook, and they're laughing and joking, and they're having their kids pour their wine for them. And then they're saying, is it too early to be doing homeschool because it's 11 a.m.? And I am beyond appalled. I'm sick to my stomach. Because what they're doing is they're normalizing all of this. They're making a joke out of all of this, and they're normalizing drinking at 11 o'clock with their children, and they're having them be a part of all of it. And I'm thinking to myself, you have no idea what you are doing. You are digging a hole so damn deep that you aren't even going to be able to get out of it. I know, because I've been there, and you're bringing your kids into this and you're normalizing it. And I am freaking mad. And I'll tell you, I'm still pissed off about that. And because we've created a culture of wine mums. And I'm like, this is beyond sickening. And then, of course, domestic violence is increasing. Price of like the alcohol sales are skyrocketing. And then, of course, I live in a town of about 66,000 people. And it was within about a 2-week span that there was about 8 men in their late 30s to early 40s that committed suicide. And it totally devastated our whole community. And, you know, what's happened now is like we're having to sit at home in our stillness, right? And I'm doing good because I've already starting to work on the inside of who I am, right? So I'm doing good and I'm protecting my sobriety and, you know, it's my world. So I'm seeing things so clear and I'm seeing everything around me go to shit. And I'm just like, wow, this is just so unbelievable. And what I was seeing is so many people, because they're brought to that time of stillness. And, you know, we've been brought up in a society and in a world that we need to be comparing ourselves to everybody else. We need to be comparing ourselves to the Joneses. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you, I don't give a shit about the Joneses. And that's what the biggest advice I give to everybody out there. Don't give a shit about the Joneses. Because the only person you should really be giving a shit about is who you are and what's happening inside you. Because that's what's happening on the outside, right? And so all these people are discovering that they don't like themselves. And that's why they're committing suicide and all this other shit is happening, right? And then I'm thinking, I got to do something. Like, this is crazy. What can I do? So what I started to do is I started putting these videos out every Wednesday on Facebook about my thoughts, feelings, and emotions of what were going on inside me. Because I knew that if I'm feeling this, there's got to be at least one other person. And this is how I'm dealing with it. So maybe these people might find my advice a little bit helpful or what I'm doing, whatever, right? And then I started putting these quotes out every day, like these inspirational quotes and, you know, things are going good for me. You know, I'm living in my own little bubble and just like everybody else, but I'm not drinking where everybody else are going nutso. And, you know, so that's March up until December. And like, I'm getting this following, like this crazy following of people. And I'm getting texts and messages and all this other stuff, right? And everybody's, you know, thank you, Shannon. And, you know, like, you know, they're congratulating me. And then my whole life kind of changed around first week or two in December or whatever it was, because I ended up getting messages from these 2 individuals that basically were ready to commit suicide. But they said what it was changing their life totally and completely was what was stopping them was every morning they would get up and they would go to my Facebook and they would see what I was posting every single day. And that's what was holding them back from committing suicide. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Like that I was having this much of an impact on these 2 people because I had no idea. And then, of course, then these feelings inside me are really starting to kick in because I'm like, oh my God, people have no idea who I am. Like I'm lying to these people because they're looking at me like I'm something special and I'm so far from it because I'm just as screwed up as they are. They just don't know that about me. Right? So I'm the more I post each day, the sicker I'm getting, and I'm feeling like a freaking hypocrite, and I'm like, oh my God, right? And I'm lying to myself, I'm lying to them. So what I decided to do was January of 2020 is I actually did a live on video, and I kind of advertised it a little bit prior, you know, saying, hey guys, I'm coming on live on blah blah blah. You know, and then be damned if there wasn't about 700 people that had ended up showing up on this live. And I told them everything. I told him about my total past, my upbringing, my addiction, the abuse, my relationship, how I just felt, just about everything, how I had lost my baby, like everything that led me to my addiction, my time in treatment. People were floored because they couldn't believe that. They were just floored. And there were people that had known me my entire life that approached me and said to me, we knew, your family dynamic, but we had no clue that this is how you truly felt. We had no idea that that's what you were going through. And everybody was like, thank you for sharing your story. And then the next thing, like all of these people are coming out and they're starting to share tidbits about their life with me and blah, blah, blah. And I'll tell you, when I did that live, I was so scared. And you can actually watch it on YouTube. You can go on YouTube and you can Google Shannan Mondor and it'll come up. And anyways, then after that, I thought, wow, okay, I am making an impact on people's lives. And I'm like, okay, well, what else can I do to help people? So I wrote my book, which is called How in the Hell Did I Get Here? Forever Changing the Genetic Blueprint. And the reason I chose this title is because, like, how in the hell did I get here? How many of us out there look at ourselves, wake up the one day and we're like, holy shit, how in the hell did I get here? Because let me tell you, I said that many times in my life. And it took me a hell of a long time to figure it out, right? And then forever changing the genetic blueprint is stopping it with me, the addiction with me, and also my children. So once I did my book, then I decided, well, how am I going to, get my story out there even more so I can help more people. And then I created my podcast, Fulfillment in Faith. And that is my passion project. I absolutely love my podcast and it's everywhere. And the biggest thing with me, the life-changing aspect when it came with me, where I really started to come into my power was I was at a pivotal moment where I had been doing about 15 episodes on my podcast, and I was talking about the chapters in my book. But it was to the point where I was like, I know there's something more out there. There's something more for me. And I could feel it, but I didn't know what it was. And I was getting bored with talking about my book. And I am such a big believer in talking to the universe and being guided by the divine. So that's what I did. I said, please, universe, I need you to help me and guide me on what I'm supposed to be doing next with my podcast. You need to let me know. And then it was about 2 weeks later, I was at a concert and I was supposed to go with my oldest daughter, but she ended up getting sick. And so I took her back to the Airbnb and I was going to the concert by myself. And I get there, sold out concert. And what people don't understand is for the journey that I'd already been through, I'd gone through a lot. I had discovered a lot about myself, but I also discovered a lot about many other people. And it was very hurtful because this time was one of the loneliest times in my entire life. Because after I wrote my book, a lot of people didn't like that I wrote my book because I spoke my truth. And when I wrote my book to help other people. I didn't even really look at it as writing it about me. Never even really crossed my mind. All I wanted to do was help other people. God, for all that I've been through and all that I felt, I don't want anybody else to be feeling like this. So if there's any way that I can help them with what I've learned, then that's what I want to do. That was my full intention with my book. So when my book came out, all these people around me who I thought loved me, who I loved, it didn't turn out that way. Because they didn't like that I spoke my truth. They didn't like the fact that they could not conform me and mold me into that individual that I was anymore. And they were in denial of so many things. I was even told that I was lying in my book. And I was so taken back in that, because how can I lie about my own story? But what it boiled down to is they didn't like the fact that they now had to start living in their truth because they'd been living in denial for so long, and they didn't want to have to face their truths. And you know what? That's okay. You can continue. That's your life. It's not mine. But it was also the fact too that many people that don't understand addiction, they didn't want to be affiliated with someone like me that had addiction, because a lot of people out there look at people with addictions are dirty and filthy. And I was far from that, right? My addiction stemmed from my trauma from growing up. So there I am at this concert, loneliest time of my life. And I'm looking around and all these people are laughing. There's husbands and wives and everybody's just joyful. And I am feeling so lonely and I am feeling so sorry for myself. And I'm like, oh my God. And I was like, did I make the right decision? Because I was told by someone that I truly loved and I thought loved me. And they said, I sure hope that you can handle the consequences of what you've done. And I'm like, are you kidding me? What I've done? I couldn't even believe that actually was brought up to me. What I've done? I freed myself. So I was really questioning myself. Like, am I doing the right thing here? Have I made a huge mistake? And then, so I'm at that crossroads in my life and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can either go this way. And this was one of the scenarios, which I seriously considered. I can go back to my old way of life, right? I will not be lonely anymore, but I will become a people pleaser again. I will conform to what everybody else wants me to be. And they're going to be so damn happy. I will start drinking. I will commit suicide because that's exactly what's going to happen, because I lived that life for all those years. And then it was at that moment where a freaking light bulb went on, right? And it was almost like the stadium became the world and I was this little person in this world. And I was like, oh my God, I understand why so many people go back to their old life, because they don't want to be alone. They don't want to be alone. They will sacrifice who they are as an individual so they will please everybody else. And that's what happens. And then I thought to myself, I'm not alone. And then I'm thinking about it more and more. And then I'm getting pissed off, right? Now, this time I'm getting angry. And I'm like, I am not alone. I am not alone. And then I came to the realization, oh my God, I am not alone. And then I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I am going to start speaking my truth. I am going to start telling my story. And I am going to be a leader. I am going to speak my truths, because there are so many out there that are so freaking scared to do it. So I'm going to be their voice. And once they get strong enough, they will join me. And that was how I came up with my series, You Are Not the Only One, which is my podcast on fulfillment of faith. And I now have people literally from all over the world that are coming on and telling their stories of their times of stillness, where they've learned so much. And now the people that they have become and what they've learned, and they're teaching other people. And it's just amazing. And what I've also created now too is I've created a public speaking platform, because back when I had quit drinking and I was starting to do these videos, when COVID hit, I had this huge vision, and I didn't really know what it was back then, but I know what it is now. The vision was, and it was so clear to me. I'm actually a public speaker in this vision, and I'm going up the 3 stairs to the backstage, and to the right of me is the thick black velvet curtains. And then to the right of me are 3 individuals. Now, I don't know these individuals now, but in my vision, I know them. And they're waiting me to come over, and I go over there and we're laughing and we're joking and they're prompting me and whatever. And then my name is called and I go out on stage, and I'm looking at my audience, and it's like hundreds of people. And whatever I'm saying, the power and the energy that is coming out of me is beyond overwhelming. And the reason I know that is because I can see my audience's faces, and whatever I'm saying, they're resonating with, because they're crying, and I see their tears, and the passion that's coming out of me is beyond overwhelming. But the problem is I didn't know what I was saying. But I know now what I'm saying. I know now exactly what I'm saying. I'm talking about my journey, my whole entire life. I'm talking about my book. I'm talking about my podcast. I'm talking about my guests that I've got all over the world. And I'm talking about my personal mindset and development program that I have developed, which is a 6-month program. And that's where I am today. Yeah, that's my story.
Whew. Oh, wow. Shannan, thank you. Oh, I just need to catch my breath. There's so much to process in such a short time. It really astounds me how magical life is and this world is, and that the people I get the opportunity to interview and have on this podcast, we're all different. There's people from all walks of life, all around the world, all different backgrounds. We don't choose, our upbringings. We don't choose the worlds that we're born into. And some of us get born into a much worse situation than others. That's a fact. And I believe that it's people like yourself who rise above those really, really difficult upbringings and situations that for most people would just lie down and just take it and not rise up because it's too hard. And it's people like you that do rise up and conquer it in order to show others the power and the depth of the human spirit and what it means to really overcome and to be free. And I want to thank you for being you and sharing your story and being brave and making that decision in that moment at the stadium to not go back, to option one, which was the old ways, because you could see that pathway and you knew where you would end up. And instead you chose the road less traveled. You chose the brave path of, well, not everyone's going to like me. Well, they've already not liked my book, but this is what I'm here to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But, I was at that place for many, many years of not being brave enough because I was so fearful. I was so afraid. And there are so many people out there that are at that stage right now that they are so afraid. But I was also in denial of so many things as well, too, right? I was a blamer. Oh my God. I was the major victim. And anybody that has an addiction, you feel like you are a victim. I'm going to tell you that right now. You're probably listening to me and you're thinking you're full of shit, right? But you are a victim. You feel that you are a victim and you are a blamer. You're blaming everybody else. But it gets to a point that you need to wake up and you need to start taking responsibility for who you are. And that's exactly what I did. There was a lot of things inside me that I had to forgive myself for because I was not a freaking angel either, right? I also played into all of this. I look at the relationship with my husband. I let him do that to me. I did not communicate to my husband, stop it. That's my fault. So I need to take ownership for that. It's relationships are 50-50. You treat people how you treat yourself. I didn't respect myself. I didn't love myself. If I would have, I never, ever would have allowed that. You have to train people how to treat you, right? Our relationship is totally different now. You piss me off. Hey man, I'm telling you, you're pissing me off, right? Like I tell people how they treat me. It's not the other way around, right? And that's something that I'm teaching my children as well. I deserve to be respected. I deserve to be loved. I know what I want in life. What does that end result, Shannan, look like, right? Would she accept that now, today? No, she wouldn't. So there's so many different facets to it, for sure, right? And also that self-awareness. I woke up that day, August 17th, and that was where my self-awareness kicked in. You have to have self-awareness. You have to feel that change within you. And that's the thing. It's all about feeling inside you. Once you get past that victimhood and blaming, then you can really start to see inside about who you really are and who you're meant to be. Because if you're blaming and being in that victimhood, you're looking on the outside still. You got to start looking on the inside. And that's where you start to shed all of these layers, because all of us have junk. Every single one of us, right? It's just a matter of whether you're willing to admit it or not. And I was willing to admit all my faults.
I've had interesting conversations with other people who are in the mentoring space and deal with a lot of addictions. They've said to me, and one person in particular has said, addictions is rife. Addiction is something that all of us have at some level in some way. We could have a TV addiction, a food addiction, a shopping addiction, you name it, social media addiction. And yet we tend to discriminate, or we demonize the alcoholic or the drug addictions. And yet we all have some kind of addiction. Would you agree with that?
Oh my God. I love that you bring this up, because I'm actually just working now on a big speech. I'm going into the level now of TED Talks, right? And so I'm actually working on what my speech is going to be. And that's the thing. All of us have some sort of addiction. We have, it could be drugs, alcohol, shopping, electronics, our cell phone, smoking, sugar. We all of us have some sort of vice. All of us do. And basically it's the self-awareness of that too. It's all the same symptoms. It's only the substance that changes. So when I was in my treatment center there for 8 weeks, there are so many things that I learned about that I had no concept of. And I'll tell you, it was the most educational time of my life, because literally they drill and you study from the moment you get up to the moment you go to bed about addiction. And that's why I say, like, wow, yeah, all of us have that. And it's so funny because, like I said, regarding my TED Talk that I'm going to be doing, I talk about the cycles of addiction. There's one cycle of addiction, and it works for every addiction, right? Because we have the pain, right? And then what we try and numb it, we mask it, right? And then when we mask it, then we have, what do? We do all this stupid shit. So of course, then we have the regrets, right? Then you wake up in the morning and then the pain is still there, but now it's tenfold. It just keeps on going over and over and over. But once you have that, but another thing too is there's these belief systems that are locked into you while you have that addiction. And that's what's killing you, is these belief systems that I'm not good enough. I'm so full of shame. I'm not, whatever it is, right? And usually those belief systems come from an experience, or they're brought forth by someone else that drills it into you, right? It's hereditary. But what I'm going to be teaching to people is there is the transformation of growth, which is the cycle, right? And that's where I'm also teaching people what this cycle actually looks like, and visually, so it's actually stuck in your mind, because a lot of people need that visual to comprehend. So that's what I'm going to be teaching, right? And I'm going to be talking about in my public speaking talks coming up and everything. But that's also where I'm going to be training people and teaching people, which I do now within my courses, is you have to look at the belief systems that you have within you, and you have to change them because they're obviously not serving you. So what we're going to do is we're going to create these new belief systems within you. And how you do that is you start to live them, you believe them, you embody them, right? And that's what it's all about. So yeah, exactly. All of us have some sort of addiction by far. I talked even more, but yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, how exciting. I could keep listening to you, Shannan.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just going to talk. I like to bring things back into, real world, practical, living it out. And I know that listeners will be going, well, okay, some might be thinking, well,
I don't want to acknowledge that I've got an addiction. That's the first thing. Or, this isn't me, or they'll push away from something that you've said. And I feel that I just want to call it out that it's okay to have those resistance levels, because that's the sign that there is something there.
Oh, yeah. If someone's listening to me and, there's triggers going on, well, that right there is telling you that, there's something going on. People don't like to hear truth either. And yeah, like I was in denial. I can remember the first time that I really realized that I had a drinking problem. And you know what I did? I actually, and people do this. Like I've talked to so many other people that have had problems with addictions. And I actually went on the computer and I Googled, how do you know if you have a drinking problem? If you're starting to think like that, you got a problem. Right? If you're starting to question if you've got a problem, you've got a problem. And the more I thought about it, the more I drank, because I didn't want to face it. Right? It's no different. The more that I didn't want to be like my brother, the more I became him. Your whole life consumes, because inside, that's what you're feeling. And you can't deny it on the outside, because your outside totally conforms to that. That's just how you end up in your life. Yeah.
Bringing this back to people who are obviously, serving the world through their business, because our business is a vehicle. We bring ourselves to that business vehicle in order to hopefully make a difference and create change. We do it with purpose. How important is it, Shannan, for this message and what you're teaching? How important is that for people to adopt and learn in order for them to do their work?
So that's why with me, when you come to me and you do a self-development program, I've got the one program which covers every area of your life that you want to change, right? And it's a 6-month program, because you can't just change something overnight. So with my programs, I teach you, number one, you got to have that self-awareness, right? That's the number one thing, because you want to change. Now, once you have that self-awareness, and I don't know if do people out there really understand what self-awareness is? And self-awareness is how you view yourself a lot of times, or, what do you believe in, or what do you want to believe in? It's coming into the light of like, oh my God, okay, there's these changes here that I want to make in my life, but I don't know where to start. Right? So what I also help once you get to the level of self-awareness is I teach you to guide yourself and to sit in your stillness and to have that divine guidance within you. What is it that you do want to become? And this is where your imagination really comes in, because we can become and do whatever we want in this life. And I know that personally because of where I was to where I am now. If you even asked me 5 years ago, are you going to write a book? I would have been like, are you kidding me? Now I'm talking, I've written a book. I've got a podcast. I'm speaking. I am talking to people all over the world. Like I have so far surpassed anything I could have ever imagined in my entire life. And that all started out with my imagination. So I'm going to teach you, what is it that you want? What is it that you want in life? And you know what? Go crazy, because you can have and you can be whatever you want in life. Once you've got that, and you have to see it. You have to see it in your mind's eye first. That is once you've created it. Then what I do is I start to teach you to embody that. So say, for example, there's me. I see that great version of me, right, in my 4th dimension. Now I'm going to bring it into the 3D. Now I got to start acting like that individual. It's kind of like, if I want to be a millionaire, I don't hang out with people that have no money, right? You just don't hang out with people that have no money because you take on that vibration, right? If I want to be a millionaire, even though I'm not a millionaire yet, you know what? I want to be in a room with millionaires because they're on a different vibration, right? So I will start to live that vibration, right? Then all these different things are going to start to come to me because I will also teach you the law of vibration, which is the universal law, which is the number one primary law, because we are vibrational beings in a physical body. And you got to believe that, number one. You have got to believe that. And once you believe that and you see that you are, because we are all made of energy. Everything on this earth is made of energy. And we are all a vibration. So whatever you give out into the world, it's coming from you. And that's where the law of attraction comes in. And we've all heard you are who you attract. It's because of the vibration that you're giving out. Right? So I also teach you all about that. So you have also got to think of you at that best version, the end result you. How does that person feel? How do I feel in that end result? And that's also what's going to bring you to embody it and to start attracting all these wonderful and amazing things all around you. And I live that on a daily basis. And that's where I am today because of that, the feeling that I put out. That's why you feel what you feel from me. Right? That's why you audience members out there can feel my passion. It's because of the vibration that I'm putting out. That's why you guys out there that are listening to me right now, that's why you're here, because you're here for a reason. This is not coincidence. This is not coincidence at all. You are here to hear me say, could be even one sentence. And that one sentence will change and shift your life forever. Right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Beautiful. And it all starts with that self-awareness. You can't create the life and be the person that you want to be without starting with that self-awareness and looking within, doing that introspection work.
And like with my 6-month program too, like I have got 12 lessons that you actually go through. So I'm working with you for 12 months, or sorry, for 6 months. And with the 12-week program, you're working on each lesson for 2 weeks. And then we go through it and we talk about it and we live it and we embody it, and it's just an absolutely amazing journey. And it totally shifts you, to where you've never been before. And that's what's so exciting about this, because I see the personal growth in so many people and it happens almost immediately, but you have to have that faith and belief in yourself too. And that was the biggest thing with me is that's why I've advanced so quickly in so many areas of my life, because I believe so much in myself. And you know what? I deserve to have the best. I value who I am now compared to where I was before. Oh my God. Not even the same person, not even close, right? I love who I am. And that's what I do is I teach you how to love yourself. That's also where, like, there's so many different things that I teach you in the program. It's absolutely amazing, like absolutely amazing. And, if anybody has any questions, just get a hold of me. I do one-on-one consults just to see if, you fit, or you're going to fit. It's just a matter if you make that decision that you want to make that change within your life, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful. Sounds so powerful, Shannan. And I know it is. And the way you speak about it, it's just the energy and the passion and just everything you talk about. I can feel it from you, right? It's just coming out of you, and it's
the biggest thing is because I created this program, right? From all of the teachings that I've learned from all my other mentors and taken my courses, and that's the thing. Like, I've got a coach too, right? Like, coaches don't stop coaching, and I will always have a coach. I'll probably have a coach for the rest of my life, because there's always something that I'm going to learn that I'm going to be able to pass on. Right? And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help people to get to their highest level, to get whatever they want or desire in life. So by doing that, I need to constantly learn new things as well. Right? And my coach has a coach. That's just how we do it. Right? You never want to be the smartest one in the room. Ever. You don't ever want to be the smartest one in the room. I don't want to be the smartest one in the room. Right? Because I want to be learning from somebody. And that's so true. right? And I don't want to be in a room either with people that, have no money. I want to be in a room with people that are millionaires because I want to be in that vibration, right? Whatever I want to become, I will believe it now. And then I will go to that next level to be with those people because that's how it's going to come to me, is because I'm living it. I'm embodying it. I already see it, right? Like I said, if you want to be a millionaire, act like a millionaire, talk like a millionaire, dress like a millionaire, even though it's not there yet, it's coming. Get in a room with a millionaire. And we hear this over and over and over. And a lot of people think, oh, this is just malarkey. No, it's not. I'm living proof. I am living proof. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm conscious of the time, and I've got a couple more things to ask you, Shannan. The first one is, can you tell me what 6-star or being 6-star means to you?
Oh, when you say 6-star, I just think of like, boom, just an explosion. Oh God, I just think never ending possibility. It's just there. Embrace everything. Life is magnificent. It's all there for the taking. I just think of an explosion. I say, boing, that's 6-star. It should be like 1,000 stars, unlimited stars. That's what I think. Well, that's what I think of me too. I'm, there's no limits, right? Yeah.
What a great answer.
Excitement,
I've never had that
energy.
one. Yeah. I love it. Oh,
That's what makes me different.
Yeah. So tell me, Shannan, as we come to a close, how can people get in touch with you?
Oh, just so many ways. Well, you can come to my house. No, just kidding. Okay, so I want you to go to my website. It's shannanmondor.com, and it's SHANNAN. I've got 2 A's, no O's. Go to shannanmondor.com, and there you will find everything about me in there. There's my Calendly. You can book a one-on-one consultation with me. On my website, you can download all my free affirmations. And those affirmations I created when I was going through my journey, of self-discovery when I first quit drinking. And I would repeat those over and over and over. And I truly believe them. And so there's that free gift for you guys to go on and download that. There's also my book on there too. You can go on there and you can download the first couple chapters. And if you do like my book, then you can go onto Amazon and order it from there. You can Facebook. Please follow me on Facebook. That's my business card. Like, I post every single day. I do videos. I just love my Facebook. Absolutely love my Facebook. Listen to my podcast, Fulfillment in Faith, and listen to my series, because there are so many wonderful people that I have on there from all over the world. And they've got the most amazing stories of where they've been to where they are now. And it's just really heartwarming for what they've gone through, just like me. And I just feel that it's so, so important because those of you that are listening, I know that you're going through something, and I want you to have the courage to someday, tell your story. And even on my podcast, I am accepting guests. So you can go onto my Calendly there and you can actually do a meet and greet with me, and we can talk. And, perhaps you can be a guest on my podcast as well and be a part of my future public speaking forum that I'm going to be taking all over the world, which is going to be called You Are Not the Only One. So yeah. Where else? I'm also on Instagram, or you can email me at info@shannanmondor.com. So there are so many different ways that you can get a hold of me for sure. Yeah. And take my coaching program, Fulfillment in Faith. Oh, one final thing too, is I am doing a live event September 14th to 16th, and it's called Rise Above. And I'm very, very excited about this because I'm going to teach you how to create that new identity that you always wanted to be and to help you find your greatness within. And it's a 14-page workbook that you're going to receive for free that I'm going to guide you through and we're going to work on. And I'm also going to be teaching you how to manifest too as well. And so we're going to go through that workbook together. And so keep looking on my Facebook because it's going to start being advertised live. I want you to register. And yeah, I'm really excited for that. And then I'll be having a live event every single month from here on in where I'm going to be teaching you and you're going to get to know me more on a personal level, in a group setting and stuff like that. A group setting, people all over the world. It's good. Yeah, it's great. It's all done on Zoom and everything.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is huge. That's huge. The event sounds so exciting, Shannan.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this one. Yeah. It's going to be good.
We've also got all your links in the show notes. So all of those places that you've just mentioned will be listed there so people can click and go through and find you and download your affirmations and absorb and consume all of your content as they would like. I just want to make a reflection, if that's okay. It's a reflection of gratitude because I'm so grateful for you for coming on this podcast, for sharing with me your story. And I just want to say I love the way you speak, Shannan, and I love the way that you have shown up in the world. And what is really obvious to me, and maybe it's not to anyone else, but if you're really listening or watching the video on YouTube, you speak not just with passion, but you speak with gratitude.
Oh, God, yes, I do. Oh,
it's really clear to me that you are grateful for the journey that you've been on to be able to do what you're doing now. And that is a really, really difficult place to get to, but a really special place. And I just want to honor you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's funny that you say that because just before this, I was on a Zoom with a lady that I'm doing I did a meet and greet with. And her story is just unbelievable. And she was thanking me for changing so many people's lives out there. And I had said to her, I go, to be honest with you, I said, I don't really realize how many people's lives I'm changing out there because I really don't. I don't. And because of where I've gone, where I've been and where I've come. But I said, one day I will realize it. And I said, it'll probably end up coming to me tenfold. And then I'll probably end up crying or breaking down or whatever, right? I said, but where I cry every time, if I don't cry now, is I am so grateful. I am so grateful for all the amazing people that have literally come into my life. That are on my podcast or, I'm a guest on or whatever. And that's where I cry because I'm just so thankful. Because I look back at my life at so many times that I was so alone or in that stadium where I was feeling so lonely and I thought I would never have anything more. And I look at where I am now and I could never ask for a better life. I've got so much love coming to me. I feel the love out. You know what I mean? I just love everything. So that's where I cry because of the gratitude that I have. So yeah, now I'm crying. And I am so thankful. Oh God, am I thankful. Yeah. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being you. And thanks for crying and just being real.
That's one thing I can tell you, vulnerability, I think is one of the biggest strengths anybody can ever have. Because I suppressed it for so long. And where did it get me, right? So, and that's one thing I do teach my children is, what, if, you got to show your feelings. Your feelings are the most important thing. And, yeah. So even those of you that will listen to my podcast or whatever, some of the stories are beyond touching that, what, I cry. I can't help but not cry, and, yeah, that, and you know what? I look at that as one of my superpowers for sure. Because if people see someone like me cry, then they know that it's like, it's okay to cry. Then they feel more comfortable being in that environment, especially around me doing it. And I'm like, good. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. As we come to a close, Shannan, I'd love to know from you, maybe if you can share with us like a tidbit, a golden nugget, a little piece of something to leave our listeners with.
Oh, this is my favorite. Always have faith in yourself, because if you have faith and belief in yourself, you will have fulfillment in every area of your life. And that is why I called my podcast and I called my business Fulfillment in Faith, because I truly have faith in myself. And now I am having fulfillment in every area of my life. And that is so huge. And I love that so much. I love it.
That's powerful. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannan. It's been an absolute honor, pleasure, a joy, and it's been a journey that has touched me. It started and has hopefully touched all the listeners as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and I'm so blessed, and I'm honored to be on this podcast, and I'm honored to have met you. And I just hope everybody out there, whatever I said, even if it was just a word, that you will resonate with something that I said, because you know what? All I can say is you are worth it, and everybody deserves the best out there. Absolutely everybody. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's wonderful.